cargo and who is going to create the demand duty. So therefore it just goes online into a system, and an anonymous email comes that this is your assessment, please pay your duty, or if you want to dispute, then again you dispute, but you're disputing to an anonymous entity. But really speaking, the improvement will come when the Pakistan single window is rolled out, and the rollout date for that is coming soon, maybe as early as next week. The only concern or worry is that sometimes, we roll out things when they're not quite ready under political pressure, and there is political pressure. So one hopes that as and when it does get rolled out, the system is absolutely foolproof and fully functional. But the good thing is that single window entity has been reaching out to all the stakeholders, and they've had tremendous level of interaction, training sessions, back and forth, suggestions, question answers, and things like that. So, of course, any software will always have teething problems, but hopefully these teething problems will be less and less. And I think lastly is the procurement of a VTMS. So both the ports need this, and I think the advertisement has already been given, so hopefully this may be able to be deployed by year end or early next year. So we talked about the performance of the sector. We spoke about the recent developments. Then I thought we'll look at some of the opportunities. So as you know, most of our freight moves by road. So there is an opportunity to improve our trucking fleet. The fleet is fragmented, the fleet is not modern for the most part, the fleet is very inefficient, they don't operate on international standards. So we do see a few organized fleet operators coming into Pakistan from other countries as well as nationally, but I think there's a lot more that can be done. The railway sector, of course, is also in a terrible shape. If somebody has the patience and the will to work with Pakistan Railways, then I think there is a great opportunity there, but you have to be very patient. Warehousing, we're still somewhat operating on an antiquated model. We're not going into high-rise warehouses, we're not going into automated warehouses, we're not going into ambient temperature warehouses. So I think people are starting to look at this now. There are some Scandinavian, German, and American companies which have recently come. Some have invested, some are considering investment. So we hope that this sector will continue to grow. Bulk storage, you'll be surprised that there are no silos outside of the port. So if you are in Punjab or you are in Sindh and you've grown some wheat, if you haven't sold the wheat during the harvest production season, you cannot store it till the next season. Either you have to burn it, waste it, or export it, or sell it at a cheap price. So I think silos is something which nobody is looking at and should be looking at. So those were the opportunities. I thought we'll quickly run through some of the challenges because I do want to take some questions. We're operating on the Bill of Lading Act of 1856 in this country. I'll say that again, 1856, not 1956. And we're operating on the Carriage of Goods by Sea Act of 1923. And since 2011, we as an industry association have been lobbying for updating these legislations. And today is 2025, we're still lobbying for it. So let's hope that in this parliament we get it done. This is just a history, so I don't think we need to run through it, but we did try very hard to get these legislations passed. One of the challenges we face as shipping agents is customs no longer issues permanent licenses, so they only issue a license for 6 months. Now you can imagine or understand if somebody has to start a business, they're not going to do it on a 6-month business plan. They need some assurance of longevity or continuity. So this is something that we're again arguing for customs, that please expedite this process. And it's a very simple thing actually that needs to be done. They need to take an exam and they don't have the system for the examination. So our friends from Global Compact have been helping us, and we appreciate your intervention. So let's hope we can come up with finally that syllabus and get them to start the examinations. This is something very interesting. If your company has a foreign director, you need to get clearance for that person from different agencies. Now, we have Maersk here, we have GAC here, we have MSC here, we have so many of these global operators here, and yet their directors are subject to 6 to 12-month delays in their clearances. If they can't get their clearances, they can't operate the bank account. If they want to visit Pakistan, they can't get long-term visas. So all these things are affecting us quite a lot, because a lot of us now have joint ventures with foreign companies. Similarly, any foreigner who wants to visit the port area, Ali is sitting here, he's the commander of the port security force. Even if he wants to facilitate, we have 6 other organizations that need to give these clearances. So again, if a ship is needing repair or somebody is sick and they need to be replaced with a new crew member, things become very difficult and onerous. So again, we've been trying to argue with the government that, please make this process simple or make it like it was before. Now it's taking 4 to 6 weeks. Before it used to take 3 to 4 days. This is just explaining the procedure. I thought we'll talk a little bit about other challenges in a general sense. So law and order is very important. If you want to have any domestic or foreign investor come into the port sector, they will first look at the security situation of the country. There has been improvement in the recent past, but I think still more needs to be done, and we can't relax. Consistency of policy, again, is very important. Sometimes what tends to happen over here is either due to a change of government, or even if it's the same government, due to change of a minister, or even if it is the same minister, due to change of a procedure, so people get taken by surprise. So I think this is something which Pakistan really needs to work on, is that there has to be a common policy regardless of any changes in governments, ministers, or departments. Cost and ease of doing business is also very important. We don't do very well on those indicators. Recently, the government has formed a commission under the Board of Investment to look at redundant procedures and processes. I understand that the final study is now going to the cabinet, so hopefully we'll be able to improve our score on ease of doing business. Again, speed of decision making is critical. I was just with Admiral Zubair, and he was telling me that when he was in KPT, somebody came with a proposal to set up a lubricants plant in KPT, and it took so many days or so many months that out of frustration, the gentleman went to Fujairah and he called Admiral Zubair after 24 hours and he said, everything is done. I'm setting up in Fujairah in 24 hours. Thank you very much. I don't need help from KPT. So imagine we lost that investment just because of the bureaucratic procedure. So we've done quite well in one sense in terms of our landlord-port framework. I think where we have been, let's say, weak is rolling it out to other sectors. So we've done the terminals already, but we haven't done pilotage, we haven't done tuggage, we haven't done dredging. Now we're doing, but in a different way, not as a public-private partnership, but as a public entity. But still there are opportunities in other sectors of the port. I think we need to move in that direction. That's the second bullet over here. Looking forward, costs, as I mentioned before, our tariffs need to be rationalized. Exercise is going on. Very recently we attended a meeting regarding transshipment, and we made it very clear to the Ministry of Maritime Affairs that if you're not as competitive as Salalah and Jebel Ali and Colombo then you might as well forget about transshipment. So we need to do something with our tariffs to encourage transshipment but make it economically viable or feasible. ERP is an issue which I personally feel it will improve the ports a lot in terms of transparency. But again, there's a lot of resistance internally when you try to automate things. So I believe now, again, the ports are looking at this and the task force is also looking at this. So hopefully something will come out of it. I think this point I've already mentioned. Port Qasim we've already talked about. Railway we've talked about. Inland waterway we haven't talked about. So there is a whole study done that we could actually transport a lot of cargoes from the south to the north and from the north to the south if we develop some of the waterways. And there's actually an Inland Waterway Transport Authority, but they're not getting much mileage. So I think they need to be supported, and some things are happening, but not enough to make it commercially viable. Connectivity, of course, the more roads we build, the more multimodal facilities we build, the more trucks we import or manufacture, all the more better for us. Cross-border connectivity, we hear a lot about it. It's moving very slowly. There's something called TIR. Between 2022, 2023, 2024, there has been consistent doubling of the number of containers that have gone to Central Asia through the TIR convention. This year till August already, it's around 800 or 900 TUs. So the volumes are very small, but imagine they grew from 100, 200 to 400, 500, and now we're sitting at 800 already, so maybe this year we'll cross 1200 or 1400. But the important thing is that people are now transacting, JVs are being formed, offices are being opened, and people are getting used to this culture. And there's a real saving. 45 to 50 days sea transit is being covered in 10 to 12 days of road transit. So you can look at the benefits already. Regional connectivity, the more we participate in regional organizations, I think the more Pakistan will benefit. But you know, every month somebody is coming from Central Asia, visiting the ports, visiting the Islamabad, meeting with the private sector, so things are happening, inshallah. Okay, so that was my last slide, and it's 3:25, I think, so we still have time for 5 or 10 minutes of questions if the organizers allow. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will take 3 questions in 5 minutes. Okay? Yes. Anyone has questions for Mr. Rajput?
Thank you, Samina. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Sir, it's very good. You describe about the actions which are being taken by the task force, and we are at KPT, we are seeing, observing at grassroots level their effect. But actually what I want to say is that 2 years back there was a IMO audit, and Pakistan's Maritime Administration goes through that audit. I was the part of that audit, and in that audit mostly the things which comes out is lacking at port state control at Pakistan Maritime Administration's level. Now we have the reforms at ports level, at PNSC levels. What do you think, why they are not taking the reforms at ministry level, at DG and port and shipping levels? Because lot of lackings are there. As you also mentioned, one bureaucracy and the second bureaucracy is going to be tackle each other if it's going to be tagging like that. So why you are not proposing for the reforms at ministry level, sir?
I think 2 parts answer. First part, why ministry is not taking the necessary action. I think ministry के अंदर problem है, there's no consistency of individuals. People come, people go. So there's very frequent transfer. So you don't actually get a chance to even understand the work before you can start doing the work. And second is non-specialists are coming. So today maybe I'm Secretary of Agriculture and tomorrow I'm Secretary of Maritime. So I don't know anything about maritime. Maybe I didn't know anything about agriculture also. But anyway, so the non-specialists and frequency of transfer. The second part of your question as to what needs to be done, I think the way I'm seeing things moving is that maritime ministry is going to become less important. It might even be abolished, or it might be subsumed into another ministry, such as Ministry of Defense. Having said that, the new entity which I spoke about, the Maritime Seaport Authority, if you look at the law of that, it covers the aspect what you are talking about. So Farooq Naseem has drafted the law, I've seen the law, I've given my comments on the law also. So I think, inshallah, if the authority comes, then this will be one of the areas of its responsibility. So I think we're just a few months away.
Thank you, sir. Considering your vast experience in maritime industries and the members and their employees, what sort of advice would you provide to the manpower being employed by the maritime industry stakeholders, how they should improve their qualification level, how they should be able to come up with the world-class standard in Pakistan? So can you please advise us?
The second thing you said was rural?
The maritime industries employees.
No, I understood the first part. You said something at the end, something class.
How they can become at par with the international standards in Pakistan?
You have to take more summer schools like this. So, you know, the answer to any type of success is education, whether it is continuing education, whether it is these youngsters who are now pursuing their degrees. I mean, I see in the front 3 rows people who are so experienced. I see KPT officials, PQA officials, I see people like yourself. So, you know, that you are sort of continuing your education, and the others are kind of learning for the first time maybe. So I think exposure as much as possible to industry activities, industry academic linkages. I've tried to do that with NEMA, trying to bring students in to learn, give them the internship opportunities. I think that's very important. And external collaboration. So you have people like yourself and your organization which is bringing in external resources. You have people like Beria. I'm currently working on bringing Antwerp Port over here and to bring their training programs. In the past, the senior KPT PQA officials used to go to Antwerp and they used to be there for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever the duration of the summer program, and they used to come back changed. You know, I myself used to see, you know, a traffic manager would go to Antwerp and come back after 2 weeks, he was a different man. His whole approach had changed. So my family started financing them because we said it's good. They go, they learn, they come back, and we had Kabulio at Port Qasim. Some of you might remember him. We had sent him as well, and when he came back, the way he negotiated the terminal transactions, it was totally different. So I think we need to bring in some more of those institutional partnerships. I've discussed with the minister, I've requested him to chair a session with the Antwerp Port chairman so that we can bring some sort of collaboration like that as well together. So education, education, education.
Sir, I would like to ask a very simple question. Masumana Sawal.
Dangerous.
You presented an excellent overview about all the 3 ports of Pakistan. But my question is with reference to the imminent threat of climate change. Are we ready, or our ports are ready for the climate change?
Mr. Trump says that there is no such thing. And being good world citizens, we follow the superpower. Well, look, I think answer is yes and no. Yes, to the extent that there are things happening. Fayaz knows, for example, the ports are trying in their own small incremental ways to do as much as possible within their own limitations. But as you know, if you look at Karachi Port, for example, Karachi Port is not creating all the garbage, right? The city of Karachi is creating the garbage. So there needs to be a partnership with the Sindh government, with the city government to also play its role and together to solve such problems. But yeah, Port Qasim, for example, on mangroves, they're very strict. If a terminal is being built, they have to, Asad is here, right? Asad, they have to build they have to plant 4 trees for every 2, right? Or something? 10 for 1. So, imagine if a terminal cuts down 1 mangrove, they have to plant 10 more in replacement. So they are doing their part, but I think, why I said no is, of course, more needs to be done because things are moving so fast in terms of degradation that whatever development also is a need of the country. The population is large, people need employment opportunities. So it's going to have to be a balance. And I think we'll, inshallah, come out of it. There is awareness and there is attention, let's put it that way. But yes, more needs to be done.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I and the speaker will go for the podcast, but Dr. Asif is going to conduct the rest of this program. And there are some printouts for the case study and also some reading material for tomorrow, which is here. On your way out, you can take a copy of it, so that when you come tomorrow, you have read and you will have time to think about it as well. So there's material here for you to take away. All right. So with that, I pass it on to you. And
Corruption is a day. Good afternoon from Copenhagen. Today I would like to talk about anti-bribery and anti-corruption compliance in the global shipping landscape. Corruption is a daily issue for many businesses across the world. And many think of it as simply just the cost of doing business. But it's more than that. It creates delays, it creates inefficiencies, it creates legal risks, and it raises the cost of doing business and limits the amount of investment that goes into a particular country and a particular industry. Particularly small and medium-sized enterprises often feel quite powerless when they are asked to provide a bribe. But the truth is that they are not quite always as helpless as they think they are. Anti-bribery, anti-corruption compliance doesn't necessarily mean big budgets and a big group of lawyers working for you. No, it's more than that. It's about being strategic with available resources and what you have. And if done right, a strong anti-corruption program can have significant effects. You can save quite a large number of resources, and it can lead to a much better allocation of capital. So there's a good reason to invest in a program such as anti-corruption and anti-bribery. So first I would like to show you a little video about my organization and what we do and why we do it.
Why fight maritime corruption? Corruption erodes trust between businesses and destroys the reputation of companies. Without trust, healthy economic development is not possible, and as a result, individuals, businesses, and whole societies suffer. Corruption is illegal in most countries and is widely regarded as a crime, resulting in prison sentences and corporate fines. Most countries have signed the UN Convention Against Corruption and have passed laws that criminalize acts of corruption such as bribery. Corruption leads to an unsafe working environment. It has a heavy psychological toll on maritime professionals who must cope with humiliating, stressful, and even threatening situations. By rejecting corruption, we create safer and healthier working environments for our seafarers and all maritime professionals. In the last years, maritime companies and seafarers have come together to collectively end corruption in the industry. The Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, MACN, is working towards eliminating all forms of corruption within the maritime industry. Help us fight corruption and work towards a system of trade for the benefit of society.
So, as mentioned, I represent the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network. We are a global business network. We represent the private sector, and we represent more than 215 businesses. Most of them are global in nature, across the whole maritime value chain. They include port agents, they include shipping companies, they include freight forwarders, and many more elements of the value chain. Our focus is really about providing solutions that work in practice and in the real world. We have been present in many countries across the world. We have projects in many countries, and for over a decade we've been working in countries like Argentina, Nigeria, Egypt, Ukraine, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Indonesia, and other countries as well. And some projects have grown more mature over time, while others are more new in nature. But we are across the world and work against corruption. And in Pakistan, our partner is the United Nations Global Compact Network, who I believe are also present in the room. So, as mentioned in the video, the reason why we're really concerned with this issue is that first and foremost, this distorts the market, right? It raises the cost of doing business, including for everyone in the whole maritime value chain. And finally, the people who pay the price are the consumers, right? Secondly, we see a world where suppliers and customers are asking more questions for good reasons, because they really want to avoid the legal and reputational risks that come with engaging with partners that work on corruption. Third, we live in a time where we're actually starting to talk a little bit about the psychological effects that corruption has on the HR element, on the people who are standing in these kinds of situations, particularly the seafarers who come into ports or experience corruption in other ways. And finally, we may say that the public is really demanding something to change as well. So it's important to note that there are many ways of fighting corruption. And there are things that companies can do internally, and there are ways of working that require cooperation across companies and cooperation with the government. And there are also things that are more about law enforcement. I would argue that corruption is best fought collectively, and when there is cooperation between both the public and private sectors and between companies and between agencies to stop it. There are some things that are out of your hands as an individual company or as an individual institution, but you can still do something internally. And that's actually what I would like to talk about today. I would like to talk about what we call capability building. Building a strong compliance program internally so that your organization can show the strengths that it has also to its potential customers and to its suppliers as well, but also so that you may save time and resources. Right? So I would like to break down this anti-bribery and anti-corruption compliance into 7 elements or seven somewhat simple steps. To get started in building such an anti-bribery and anti-corruption compliance program, you don't really need everything at once. That's very important to say. You don't need to have everything at once. You need to start with what you can manage. And if your organization is small or even medium-sized, take the steps that I propose and make them very simple. If you're a larger organization, you might already have these things, or if you represent a larger organization, you might already have these things in place, then it's up to you to review it as you see fit. So this is what I call the compliance journey. It's basically a journey from the time where you have an anti-corruption policy until you reach the audit, and it would be you could argue that it's a journey here, as it's represented here, but you could also argue it as a circle in which you go around and round and round, because it's a reiterative process. You go back and forth, right? But let's start with the anti-corruption policy. The start of everything is a policy, an explanation of what we want to achieve. An anti-corruption policy it's better to make it simple than complex. It can even be as much as a one-page code, something that you can hang on the wall, a simple one-pager that makes a difference in practice, can be seen in practice, and it can simply state as much as we don't pay bribes. What is important, however, is that it is being supported at the senior level of your organization. Because if it's not, then what does it matter? What does it matter? How can we expect junior employees to live up to certain requirements if it's not come directly from the top? So the tone is always set from the top, and if it's not, then we might as well end the conversation at this step. So when you have this anti-corruption policy in place, you can move on to the next step, which is really assessing your risks. Ask yourself, basically, where do bribes happen? How do they happen? To who? When? In other words, where is your business most exposed? Is it in ports? Is it when you apply for specific licenses? Or is it when you face specific inspections? But also, what kind of, is it when you interact with a specific type of agent or a specific type of government agency that you are exposed? Basically, in order to prevent corrupt practices, you must assess the risks you face, and you may do so in a fashion where you really capture what's going on. So now you have an anti-corruption policy, and you have done an assessment. Next comes the training. So when you learn where the threats to your policies are, you can put them into actions, of course. But in order to do so, you need to teach your staff how to navigate in specific situations. For instance, you can give them things to say. And the important is that staff must be trained in how they can put the anti-corruption policy to practice in their daily work, in situations that are relevant to them, in a manner that is not too complicated or difficult or so on and so forth. And essentially what we do when we train people, we train a lot of seafarers at MACM, is we try to first give them the knowledge of how they can prevent corruption from happening, but also give them specific strategies so that they can see when a situation is out of place, what kind of red flags that they should recognize. And finally, also some of the best practices that we have across the world, from Ghana to Togo to Argentina to Brazil to Sri Lanka. We have good innovative stories and things that really work, and share those best practices. So that's what we try to do as MECN when we do training. And we do a lot of different training. We have e-learning, we have shore staff for the seminars, we have seminars for the sea staff, and we can provide training on the ships. We can show small videos. I believe you saw one of them before, and we have many more as that, like that one. So that's some of the things that we do. So when you have a policy, you know where your risks are, you know where you are exposed to corruption, and you have put in the training. Now it's time to really have the procedures in place so that you can back up your frontline staff, the ones that are most exposed, when they have issues in place. Because you cannot just expect your frontline staff to just simply make things go away by training and having a policy. Now, sometimes it's not the real world. The real world doesn't always work like that. I think most of us have experienced that. Sometimes you need to have good plan B, and you need to have a strong support function to the people who you want to say no. If they fear of losing their jobs, or they fear being cracked on, if they don't pay a bribe, let's say, to an officer of the law, then you must also have the backup from the office staff and from the top. So this is about this really having procedures in place is really about setting down some expectations, not just to the frontline workers, but also to the ones that support them, that makes this something that we can actually practice, and it will not just be theory. And of course, as MECN, we also try to do this in practice by also supporting with a real-time mechanism, some kind of real-time mechanism, where if we know that some specific seafarers or frontline staff, it could be port agents or freight forwarders, whoever, they are in trouble, they can actually call a specific hotline. Unfortunately, this is something we have to do on a country-by-country basis, and it takes a very long time to set it up, because we need a very structured collaboration also with the government to make this work, so that we can actually make some of these issues go away. But let's say you're being faced with a bribe, we can actually make the issue go away as it happens. And we've been doing that very successfully in some countries. And of course, it's my dream that we can also do that one day for Pakistan. It might take a little longer to get that in place, but I have a big dream that we one day will have a help desk in Pakistan, as we have in some other countries at least. Finally, it's very important that we focus on reporting. Reporting is extremely important, because if we don't know where corruption takes place, we will never learn from it, and we will never be able to take proper actions against it. And I think it's very important that companies reward honesty to their workers. I keep hearing that from many, there's a buzzword these days that companies have a zero tolerance to corruption program. And I don't necessarily endorse that, because zero tolerance to corruption is not the real world. In the real world, corruption is something that happens, and it's very important that we give the staff that experiences this a way to speak up, so that you create trust with them, not fear. Because if fear-based anti-corruption is not effective anti-corruption. So make sure that this is put into policy, that reporting is put into practice. And if you lack a place to report, if you don't know what to report, well, we as Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, if you want to support what we do, you can report an incident to us. We will not take action against it, but we will know that it happens. And we have, if you simply go onto our website, macn.dk, and the first thing you will see is this button right here, that you see on the screen, called Report Incident. The report incident is where you can report it to us, and it becomes part of our database, which we can then use to engage government and IMO on reform purposes. Let me just show you some statistics here. Right now, we have a database of 65,000 reported corruption incidents, and that is a really strong thing for us to have this, because we can go to government agencies and ministries in various countries, and they can ask us, can you give us some data on our country? And we don't want to shame anyone, but we can say, yes, these have been reported to us. And quite a number of governments across the world have come to us and said, this is really good intelligence for us to know where we need to reform, but also to know how we can work with the industry. So your reports really matter to us. It matters to collective action, and it matters also for you internally in your compliance program, because you can actually learn from it just in your own organization as well. Okay, so now we've done 5 steps: anti-corruption policy, risk assessment, training, procedures that back up the frontline staff, and reporting. Next, now you probably have your own organization under a lot of control, but the next issue is, what do you do to the third parties that you work with, the other suppliers, the other companies that you do business with? Actually, you are to some extent liable for their behavior as well, simply by most countries in the world's law. So you have to do some basic research on the partners that you work with. Can they be trusted? If you have the ability to undertake some kind of screening, that is great. Otherwise, I would make sure to collect some kind of references before I enter into a business relationship. Basically, make sure you can trust them. If you have the opportunity, you can ask them, do you have policies against this? Or maybe you can scan it for past cases of corruption. I don't always want to do that, because there might also be fake cases, but it's important to know that if a third party pays a bribe on your behalf, in many countries in the world, you're reliable. So there is no such thing as just looking the other way, paying a bribe through a third party. Unfortunately, or fortunately, that is not really a good way to do things, and legally speaking, you will not nobody get away with that. So when you have that, you want to move into the final stage, which is the monitoring and internal control. And this is basically where you ensure that all of the things you've done remain relevant. So basically, once a year, you can ask yourself, what has worked and what has not worked? Is the anti-corruption policy that we have created simply a document that lies in a pile and catches dust, or is it a living thing? Have we gotten reports of corruption? And if the answer is yes, that then probably you're doing something right, because people are actually talking about it. The real issue is when people are not talking about corruption. That is when it gets the worst, in my experience. So do this small review every year. It doesn't necessarily have to be an audit, but ask yourself what has worked and what has not worked in our anti-bribery and anti-corruption program. So that is very simple. 7 elements in a very short manner of time of how you can install a strong anti-bribery and anti-corruption program. But of course, these are only things that you can do in your organization internally. True transformation happens to a large extent when companies and civil society and governments, they act together in a collaborative manner against corrupt practices. That's where real change happens. And I would like to show you another small video, if I can get it to work.
Why collective action is relevant to tackling corruption. Corruption is a daunting challenge that no single entity can tackle alone. Corruption often persists because it's seen as a coordinated norm. Many assume it's just how things are done. This mindset feeds the belief, others do it, so why shouldn't I? This expectation drives individuals and companies to participate in corruption, fearing disadvantage in a competitive environment. The concept of collective action is simple yet powerful. By uniting businesses, governments, and civil societies, we can create an ecosystem where corruption is less pervasive. Collective action is a collaborative and sustained process of cooperation between stakeholders and levels the playing field among competitors. Together, we can reshape the environment. But does collective action work? Data shows significant declines in corruption-related losses in sectors where these strategies are employed. Companies report not just savings in cost, but also enhancements in their reputations and operational stability. The success of collective action isn't just about avoiding fines or sanctions. It's about creating a long-lasting culture of integrity. Through collective action, we tackle the root causes of corruption. We redefine industry standards and ensure that integrity leads the way. Join us in the fight against corruption. Together, we create not just a new way of doing business, but a better one.
So essentially, what I'm arguing is that we need to think of corruption not just in what we can do individually, but also what we can do together with other organizations. And that is also a part of a good anti-bribery and anti-corruption program. So you can imagine what happens if just one company or one business or one civil society organization refuse to pay bribes, but others continue to do so. Of course, it may have good impact, and that one organization may have a very strong reputation, but the system overall will not improve and will still hurt a lot of people indirectly. But if everyone together decides to coordinate their rejection of bribery, everybody will benefit through a better business climate. So this is the idea behind collective action as we see it. It's an effective initiative to curb corruption because we join our forces. So we know it's not easy to push back against corruption, but we also know that you're not alone. If you want to engage with MACN or with our partners, we can support you in collective action. And if you are interested in knowing more about MACN, we can also help you in a lot of ways in building a compliance program. We can help you with practical tools, training, and other kinds of templates. We can support you in learning from other companies who operate in challenging environments sometimes. And of course, I think most importantly, you can be part of the collective action alliance that we are building and which have been building for a number of years. So you can help shape real solutions with us, with governments, with peers. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions or you are interested in MACN, you can contact me. My email address is on the screen, or you can contact the UN Global Compact.
Assalamu alaikum. Now we have a last presentation of the day. Now we have last presentation of the day, and this is by Dr. Mushayyada Miraj. I don't know whether it is okay. Dr. Mushayyada Miraj is a passionate and experienced marine biologist with over 10 years of experience in fish biodiversity, climate change, impact assessment, and aquatic environmental surveys. She is currently working for National Institute of Maritime Affairs, Now I would request Dr. Mashayada to present her talk. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Starting with the name of Allah, Rabbi Shuhaisadi wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu. I know कि सब थक चुके हैं सुबह से यहाँ बैठे-बैठे, तो I will not take too much time. I will try to give us a concise type of a presentation. So for that, today we are gathered here to explore an important and timely topic about management of trade, logistic and supply chain in the maritime sector of Pakistan, with a special focus on blue and green innovation. In this context, I will be discussing one of the important and sustainable pathways shaping the future of maritime operation, that is green shipping. This approach not only aligns with the global environment goals, but also opens doors to cleaner, more efficient maritime trade of Pakistan. As we know that sustainability nowadays is a big more concern about, and everyone is focusing on sustainable practices. So green shipping is one of the topic. So trade and shipping, we know that we are connected continent to continent by the trades. Everything which comes onto our table, maybe that is brought about by the trade. So as 2025, approximately 110,000 ships are being operated worldwide, facilitating economic interconnectivity. However, this vital industry also faces rising concern regarding the climate change. As we know, due to the emissions, due to the greenhouse gases and carbon emission, we are polluting our environment, and because of the trade, it is a big concern nowadays. So for that, sustainable practice is very important, and that is green shipping. So moving to the next slide. So for this, it is important that we should understand what is green shipping. Green shipping basically refers to a collective set of strategies and technologies aimed at minimizing the carbon emission, reducing pollution, and the most important, the ecological balance within the maritime sector. Ecological balance is just not a single term over here. Ecological balance means to balance everything which is present within the biota. हमारे पास हमारी साइकिल्स होती हैं नेचुरल प्रोसेसेस की, लाइक कार्बन साइकिल्स, नाइट्रोजन साइकिल्स, ये सारी साइकिल्स जो हैं बेसिकली एक चेन के फॉर्म्स में चल रही होती हैं. मगर जब आप इसके अंदर हम अपनी तौर पे अगर कोई इजाफा कर रहे हैं, कुछ चेंजेस ला रहे हैं, तो हम अपने बायोटा को नुकसान पहुंचा रहे हैं, और ये चेंज जो हैं वो अपने आप फिर हमारे लिए हार्मफुल बन जाती हैं. सो फॉर दैट इट इज़ नेसेसिटी दैट हम जो है वो ग्रीन शिपिंग प्रैक्टिसेस को प्रमोट करें. और फर्दरमोर मेरे पास कुछ एग्जांपल्स भी हैं. सो देयरफॉर adopting green shipping practices has become a pre-vital concern for the global maritime community. The objective is not only to reduce emission, but also to encourage energy efficient operation, clean technologies, and environmentally sound management of port and vessel activities. So in my next slide, I have a flow chart which says that green efficiency, pollution impact, and green management are connected to green shipping. And by adopting green shipping, we can move towards good environmental performance and get a sustainable economy. So I will explain what is green efficiency in my next slide. So basically, green efficiency or environmental efficiency refers to the operation of the ports and maritime transports considering to economic and environmental benefits. This includes transforming the ports into green ports. All over the world, they are working on it because of the IMO regulation and the implementation of the laws. So green port and green shipping strategy has to be adopted by Pakistan too. So the next we have is the green management or environmental sustainable management. This emphasizes on RRR. जैसे सर शुदात भी बताए थे ना कि 3 R's, तो मेरे पास भी 3 R's हैं मेरे. That is about reducing, recycling, and reduce. ये चीज़ों को अगर हम focus करेंगे, then we can get into a healthier environment, a sustainable environment. So for that, we have to engage our stakeholders for our environmental protective initiatives. Then we have next the pollution. In pollution, there are certain activities like air pollution. We know that ship emits sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxides, and nitrogen oxides and particulate matters, which are now these gases, the greenhouse emissions, these gases are contributing towards the acid rain. What is the biggest loss? That are marine biota, which get due to the disturbance within the pH, the coral reefs, which takes thousands and thousands of years, hundreds of years to build up. But by single disturbance within the biota, it get disturbed and we degrade the whole biota just by a few seconds. And then there are some introduction of respiratory issues. Now you all have concern. Asthma is nowadays very common. This is also because of the gases we are emitting within our environment. Then the major issue which is leading towards the climate change. So the next we have the water pollution, the ballast water, the biggest concern of the ships during the trade. The water from one place to another place, you are moving invasive species. Like you are giving a competition to your own species by introducing invasive species within your own species. Many pathogens, many infectious bacteria you can transport by the ship from one route to another route. Then we have the noise pollution. In the environment, many marine environment, we have marine mammals. They echolocate. They communicate by the responses of their, what we can say that they have echolocating powers. They communicate by the sounds and by the ship noises. These animals get disrupted. They harm their hearing ability. So for that, the ships have to adopt green shipping strategy. They have low noise emissions, and then again we can get a good environment, and marine mammals are very important in our oceans. So, and the last here we'll have the oil spill and waste. अगर एक दफ़ा कोई एक वक्ती स्ट्रैटेजी की वजह से, किसी एक्सीडेंटल की वजह से हमारे सरफेस के ऊपर ऑयल स्पिल हो जाता है, तो होता क्या है कि वाटर सरफेस के ऊपर एक लेयर फिल्म क्रिएट हो जाती है. उसकी वजह से जो ऑक्सीजन एनवायरनमेंट की होती है वो वाटर के अंदर पेनिट्रेट नहीं हो पाती, और उसकी वजह से जितने ऑर्गेनिज्म जो कि डिजॉल्व ऑक्सीजन बेसिस पे हैं, वो अब अपनी साइकिल नहीं चला सकते. दे कैन नॉट इनहेल, क्योंकि वो क्या, उन्होंने डिजॉल्व ऑक्सीजन ही हमने उनका ब्लॉक कर दिया बिकॉज ऑफ दैट ऑयल. तो हमें ऑयल स्पिल को रोकना है. अगर कोई एक्सीडेंट हो जाए तो इमीडिएट एक्शन लेना चाहिए, ताकि वो ज़्यादा अरसे तक रहे नहीं, क्योंकि वो पूरा का पूरा वहाँ से फिर बायोटा जो है वो लॉस हो जाता है. सो द नेक्स्ट वी हैव द एनवायरमेंटल परफॉर्मेंस. अगर हम सारी चीज़ों को फोकस करें, वी कैन इम्प्रूव आवर एनवायरमेंटल परफॉर्मेंस, विच इज़ अ measurable indicator of how well a thing mitigates its environmental impact. It can be tracked through waste management, water usage, discharge, and resource efficiency and biodiversity impact. Biodiversity impact एक बहुत बड़ी चीज़ है. In my concern as I am a marine biologist, कि एक पूरा food web होता है हमारे पास. उस food web के अंदर by nature everything is present, from microplanktons till a mammal. ठीक है, तो अब उस सिस्टम में से अगर हम किसी भी एक चीज़ को ख़त्म कर देते हैं और किसी भी एक चीज़ को अगर हम निकाल देते हैं, तो डैट यू आर वीकनिंग अप द लूप्स. ये बिल्कुल उसी तरीके से बात है दैट यू हैव अ चेन एंड चेन इज कनेक्टेड टू द लूप्स, और आप चेन में से एक लूप मिक्स कर दें तो उसकी वो स्ट्रेंथ नहीं रहेगी. तो इसी तरीके से हमारी जो बायोडाइवर्सिटी है वो इसी तरह इम्पैक्ट करती है. हर चीज़ अगर इंटरकनेक्टेड रहेगी, दैट मीन्स वी आर स्ट्रेथनिंग अप द बायोटा, और उससे हमारी इकोलॉजिकल बैलेंस भी मेंटेन रहेगा, हमारा एनवायरनमेंट भी बैलेंस रहेगा. सो द नेक्स्ट वी हैव सस्टेनेबल इकोनॉमी. नाउ हाउ वी कैन गेट अ सस्टेनेबल इकोनॉमी, दैट मीन्स वी आर मीटिंग द नीड ऑफ द गोल. यहाँ पे भी बहुत एक ज़रूरी चीज़ है, हम किसी भी चीज़ को ओवर एक्सप्लॉइट कर देते हैं. आज अपनी नीड पूरी करने के लिए, आज अपनी ज़रूरत को देखते हुए, अपनी नेसेसिटीज़ को फुलफ़िल करने के लिए आज हमने वो चीज़ हासिल कर ली, मगर हमने पीछे अपनी फ्यूचर जनरेशन के लिए नहीं सोचा और हम उस चीज़ को मिस कर रहे हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल एक स्पीशी फ़िश की ले लें, आज हम उसको ले रहे हैं, ओवर एक्सप्लॉइट कर दिया हमने. इन फ्यूचर क्या होगा, हमारी नेक्स्ट जनरेशन वो फ़िश की स्पीशी नहीं देख सकते. हमारे पास वाइट पॉम्पलेट की एग्जांपल है, पहले वो बहुत होती थी, अब हमारे पास विद पैसेज ऑफ टाइम वो हमारे लिए बिल्कुल नायाब होती जा रही है. आने वाली जनरेशन्स जो हैं वो भी नहीं देखेंगे. सो फॉर दैट हमें सस्टेनेबल इकोनॉमी को फोकस करते हुए चलना चाहिए. फर्दर वी हैव सम सस्टेनेबल economic models. The first is the circular economy, which is encouraging of reuse and recycling to reduce waste and resource extraction. Then second, we have steady state economy, that we balance the production and consumption. And then we have the green economy, सब अवेयर हैं उस चीज़ से, that integrating the environmental health into economic planning. And blue economy, very common, utilizing ocean resources in a way that is sustainable and inclusive, relevant to marine nation like Pakistan. So next we have the IMO regulation. According to IMO 2021, the shipping industries contribute nearly 3% of the global greenhouse gas emission, and that could rise up to 5 to 8% by 2050 if it's unchecked and unbalanced. So IMO is pushing for a 40% reduction in carbon intensity, and by 2030 net zero emission by 2050. या आपने अभी पहले भी हमारी टॉक में सुन लिया कि IMO किस तरीके से फोर्स कर रही है कि 2050 तक ज़ीरो इमिशन पे हम चले जाएं. सो उसके पीछे रेगुलेशंस को मीट करने के लिए हमारे पास भी सर्टन प्रैक्टिसेस हैं जिसको हमें भी लेना चाहिए. विद टाइम एक ऐसा चेंज है जो कि सर्टनली नहीं हो सकता कि आज हम शुरू कर दें. इट विल टेक टाइम, बट कि इम्प्लीमेंटेशन करना शुरू करना चाहिए है ताकि हम आगे उस चीज़ को फॉलो अप कर सकें, रेगुलेशन को मीट अप कर सकें. सो यहाँ पे हमारे पास सर्टन डाटा है. नेक्स्ट, this is basically a pie chart which is indicating the ports of Pakistan, in which we have the PNSC, the KPT and the PQA. And अगर emission देखा जाए यहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा तो PNSC से हो रहा है. तो 70.1% जो emission, carbon emission, greenhouse emissions जो है वो यहाँ से आ रहा है by the ships, and basically they are by the cargo handling activities. So aligning this all, next we have the greenhouse gas emission chart, इधर values given हैं जिसमें इन्होंने डाटा जो है ये 2022 तक का मौजूद है, जहाँ पे इन्होंने कैलकुलेट करके emissions के थ्रू different greenhouse gases का डाटा प्रोवाइड किया हुआ है. And then we are furthermore working on 2024 and 2025 data. Further, next we have a pie chart. यहाँ पे different categories की maritime vessels हैं जो कि carbon emissions कर रही हैं, और साथ में यहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा अगर फिशिंग जो की जा रही है that is due to the fishing vessels, because वही they are diesel based, उनके पास alternative fuel sources नहीं है. अगर आप लोगों में से किसी ने अगर कभी विजिट किया हो, जो फिशिंग बोट्स होती हैं they are not that well equipped even. So उधर भी हमें फोकस अपना ड्रॉ करना चाहिए कि उन फिशिंग बोट्स को जो है वो मॉडिफाई किया जाए और उनके ऊपर जो है वो ग्रीन शिपिंग प्रैक्टिसेस को इंट्रोड्यूस किया जाए. सो इट इज़ वेरी, दिस ऑल डाटा इज़ वेरी अलार्मिंग फॉर अस. सो फॉर दैट वी शुड अडॉप्ट ग्रीन शिपिंग प्रैक्टिसेस. सो फॉर द इम्पोर्टेंस, the transition to green shipping is essential for a sustainable maritime future. It reduces harmful environmental impact, helps port and shipping companies complying with the international regulations, contributing in achieving global climate goals, enhances the reputation and market competitive of maritime stakeholders. Next, some of the strategies of the green shipping which can be adopted are the alternative fuels, like we have LNG or hydrogen fuels. कोई भी जो other than diesel या हम fossil fuels कह लें उसके हो जो कि renewable हो, तो वो हम यूज़ कर सकते हैं. साथ में हम ships के ऊपर retrofitting, digital tools, smarter logistic and fuel management, carbon offsetting. It is the same thing जो पहले भी डिस्कस हुआ कि या तो carbon credits हो या तो कोई अदर सोर्स हो कि हम कार्बन को जो है एमिशंस को जो है वो बैलेंस कर सके अपने एनवायरनमेंट के लिए. देन वी हैव द इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन एंड द रीन्यूएबल. आगे जाते जाए रीन्यूएबल सोर्सेज लाइक वी हैव द सोलर पैनल्स. पोर्ट्स को ग्रीन पोर्ट्स बनाने के लिए हम पोर्ट्स पे सोलर इंस्टॉल कर सकते हैं, हम शिप्स के ऊपर सोलर पैनल्स इंस्टॉल कर सकते हैं। कुछ एक्टिविटीज़ जो ऐसी हैं जो कि सोलर बेस्ड हो सकती हैं वो हम इंट्रोड्यूस कर सकते हैं। स्मार्ट लॉजिस्टिक्स हो सकती हैं। देन वी हैव द बैलेंस वाटर मैनेजमेंट, ताकि वही जो इन्वेसिव स्पीशी है कोई अल्टरनेट सोर्स यूज़ किया जाए, बैलेंस बरकरार करने के लिए होता है बेसिकली द बैलेंस वाटर, कि इन्वेसिव स्पीशीज़ जो है वो हमारे इन्वायरमेंट में इंट्रोड्यूस ना हो, कोई पैथोजन वगैरह इंट्रोड्यूस ना हो। लाइक वी हैव नेक्स्ट वी हैव द एंटी बायोफाउलिंग, उसके लिए जो शिप्स के ऊपर मरीन ऑर्गेनिजम्स जो होती हैं, मरीन ग्रोथ बार्निकल्स वगैरह जो हैं वो ग्रो कर जाते हैं, तो उनको प्रिवेंट करने के लिए केमिकल्स का और पेंट्स का यूज़ किया जाता है। तो उसको हम इको फ्रेंडली पेंट्स यूज़ करें, और ताकि कोई हार्मफुल जो इन्वायरमेंट के अंदर हार्मफुलनेस आ रही है वो ना आए, और एफिशिएंसी भी बढ़ जाती है क्योंकि उसकी वजह से शिप की स्पीड्स वगैरह वेरी कर रही होती हैं। देन वी हैव अ चार्ट नेक्स्ट, बैक करें, about the strategies which have already been adopted by the Pakistan. So first we have the KPT, offering port free discount on low emission vessels. And then we have the SAPT, which have they have installed the RTG cranes and internal transfer vehicles. And the Ministry of Maritime Affairs have outlined the energy efficient vessel inquiries in its plan of 2025. And then we have the ship recycling practices. Maybe यहाँ पे लोगों ने सुना हो about the Hong Kong International Convention कि ship जो है वो recycle की जाएं और new ships जो हैं वो लाई जाएं. And then we have the digitalization of port operation to reduce the delays and the emission. तो ये सारी strategies जो हैं वो आ चुकी हैं already और पाकिस्तान ने adopt कर ली है. Next we have the graph. अगर आप इस graph को देखें तो emission is higher and the strategy adoption वो ग्राफ में नज़र भी नहीं आ रही है हमें, 5, 3 हुई हैं बट दे आर वेरी लेस, तो ज़्यादा इस चीज़ का आना बनता है. सो लाइकवाइज इट इज़ विजिबल कि स्ट्रेटजी अडॉप्टेशन बढ़नी चाहिए. नेक्स्ट, नाउ वी हैव द बेनिफिट्स ऑफ द ग्रीन शिपिंग. व्हाट विल बी द बेनिफिट विच वी कैन गेट इज़ दैट lower fuel costs to improve efficiency, energy efficiency, enhanced compliances with international maritime law, improved public health and reduced coastal pollution, stronger positioning in environmentally conscious global market. एक चीज़ है जिसकी वर्ल्ड वाइड अब डिमांड हो गई है. इफ़ वी से कि सस्टेनेबिलिटी की वर्ल्ड वाइड डिमांड है, आपका शिप वेल इक्विप्ड नहीं होगा, इन द फ्यूचर इट कैन बी पॉसिबल कि वो अपने पोर्ट पे नहीं आने दें. अगर आपने रेगुलेशन को मीट कर रहे होंगे, आप उस स्ट्रेटजीज़ को मीट कर रहे होंगे, तो फिर वो आपको परमिट करेंगे कि येस यू कैन गेट द शिप ऑन आवर पोर्ट टू. तो इस वजह से अडॉप्टेशन वक्त की ज़रूरत होती है एंड दैट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि हमें करनी चाहिए. द नेक्स्ट वी हैव द पॉलिसीज़. द कन्वेंशन ऑफ द इंटरनेशनल मैरिटाइम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑन द प्रिवेंशन ऑफ पोल्यूशन फॉर शिप्स विच इज़ कॉल्ड मारपोल, एंड डायरेक्टिव ऑफ शिप जनरल वेस्ट सीक to regulate this type of pollution, Annex 6 of the Energy Efficiency Design Index. The next we have the EEDI, which is the cornerstone of the IMO strategy to reduce the greenhouse emission, and from the international, and there are some certification from the green shipping programs, ESI and ISO standards, कि ये standards पूरे होते हैं पे वो आपको certification provide करते हैं that you are eligible to get into the ports and your ships are well equipped for that. So furthermore, we have some case studies in which we have the Maersk which have already launched the methanol powered vessel. Port of Rotterdam, Los Angeles and Shanghai, they have already implemented the AI powered zero emission terminals. The next we have the Northern Europe are leading to the shift to LNG, alternative fuel source हो गया. ठीक है. Then we have the Japanese and the Norwegian maritime technology firm pioneering autonomous and electric ships. And the next in context, the challenges of green shipping in Pakistan. अब जैसे कोई चीज़ भी शिफ्टिंग लानी है, किसी भी चीज़ से हमने मूव होना है, तो अडॉप्टेशन बहुत आसानी से और जल्दी से नहीं हो सकती. इट विल टेक टाइम. सो कुछ ऐसे पोटेंशियल हैं कि एज पाकिस्तान वो चैलेंजेस फेस कर रहे हैं. तो फर्स्ट इज़ द एब्सेंस ऑफ क्लियर एंड इन्फोर्सेबल रेगुलेशन, aging infrastructure and outdated port equipment, high essential cost of green technology and fuel transition, lack of skilled personnel and training in environmental technologies, inadequate reporting system for emission data. जैसे 2025 का data, 2024 का data जो है वो missing, and I'm trying to get into the sources के मुझे data मिल जाए and I could compile it. Furthermore, I would like to end my presentation. Looking ahead, Pakistan maritime industry must prioritize investment in clean technology, policy reform, international collaboration, and capacity building. A well-coordinated efforts from public and private stakeholders can pave the way forward towards a greener and a more realistic maritime sector. So I will end up my presentation here with a very little short notice that sustainability is very important. For the better future, sustainable practices को अगर हम ले लें तो it will be very beneficial. Green shipping, इसके अलावा alternate to carbon sources की emission को रोकने के लिए या कोई alternative source like carbon credits, we should invest in that. Thank you.
Day. So inshallah subah 9 baje, and tomorrow we are going to have a guest talk by CEO KICT Mr. Naveed Qureshi at 11:30, and see you tomorrow. Thank you.